A Meccano Wendy house. This was suggested by a friend, Rosemary, 4 years ago, but I haven't got round to it until now because of the pin table I was working on. Now we'll show some of the sections in greater detail. I'm having to describe this a bit at a time because the model's so big. So we'll start with the roof. Along the side there are 12.5-inch strips at either end and 9.5-inch strips in the middle. So there's 120 12.5-inch strips and about 60 9.5-inch strips. That's about all of my collection. When I made the Wendy house, I was quite carefully to make sure I had the right number of parts. But also I didn't want to buy too many of any particular part. So I mean, it would have been nice to have all 12.5 strips along there and make it a bit longer, but because of the parts I've got and wanting to use them for something else, I didn't want to buy too many and just have a load of parts left over which would never have any use again. On this end, the plates are sort of like hodgepodged because of the sort of like the triangular nature. It's hard to get the plates to fit in exactly. I quite like the little attic window. It does look slightly old-fashioned, but still it's quite pleasant. This is the side of the Wendy house. This is a side which is meant to be on view. It's of 3 floors. You might wonder why there are 3 floors there. Well, children have to get into the Wendy house, and so it has to be fairly tall. But because it's not too wide, if you have less than 3 floors, it just looks wrong. The scale's wrong. So there's 3 floors on it with various windows. The plates, I've used all of my 4.5 by 2.5 and 5.5 by 2.5 inch flexible plates for this. That's about 60 of each. And to obscure the slotted holes, you can see there's loads of strips which are slightly offset because of the different plate sizes. All in all, I think that looks quite good. One awkward thing is when you're building this up, how do you make sure that things don't slowly get out of line? And in order to do that, I created this. It's a long angle girder, and there are loads of threaded pins on it. And as you go up each level, you slot the plates in onto the threaded pins, and it makes sure that they line up properly. The front door I can't quite get into view, so I'm going to have to pan up. There you go, right to the top. Once again, there's 3 stories on it, even though it's a single door. There's a door lock on the right which just slots into the frame, and on the left, you can see them, there were 4 hinges going down. I very quickly decided not to use Meccano hinges. They're far too weak. So the hinges are 2 3-hole couplings bolted onto the frame, a moving coupling in the middle of those 2 on a rod, and then that coupling joins onto another coupling which is bolted onto the door, and that works quite well. It does sag very slightly, but I mean that's more or less like all doors, I suppose. For the back of the model, we've got 12.5-inch by 2.5-inch strip plates on the left and 9.5 by 2.5 on the right, and then in the middle, to join the 2, there are 2.5 by 2.5-inch flat plates. That looks a bit odd, but as I've said before, I'm using up all my parts on this, so in some places it doesn't look too elegant. There on the other side, which is too close to the wall to show properly, it's very similar to this. There are 12.5 by 2.5-inch strip plates, and then another 12.5-inch by 2.5-inch strip plate on the other end, and in the middle there are flat plates, but a lot more of them because that side is almost 3 feet long. We're now looking up into the ceiling, and you can see the lighting. There are 2 light bulbs up there which give a moderate amount of light, and in the wall we have a light switch, and that's all made out of Meccano, and it operates more or less like a normal light switch, rather a fiddly sprung mechanism inside it. And now we'll show the light working. So we're just outside the front door at the moment, and I'm going to put the light on. Anyway, it lights up a fair bit. It would have been nicer to have 4 lights. I think it would have been a bit stronger, and that can run off the mains or batteries. The following is a height gauge for the children to make sure that no child too high gets in, or they might scrape their heads on the ceiling. Also it warns about children that are too young, also not using shoes, because I had a mat in it at one point, and also there's a slight scrape risk because of the bolt shanks. Another little thing is I put a picture of a ship in the Wendy house. And now all that's left is to say goodbye.